for how did y'all decide on the area that you settled on, and what was that process buying your
Absolutely.
first home like?
Well, honestly, as we were getting throughout the basement, he was like, "Is that a piano?" Yeah, New York, as you hear all the time, us Northerners, I promise I'm a good one.
What's your best advice that you're giving sellers or buyers about the market?
Advice for buyers.
Today for Around Town, we are here in the center of Charlotte, and I'm here with Tyrell. So please introduce yourself and tell us where we are.
Hi, my name's Tyrell Thomas. We were actually in the Queen City, just outside of Optimus Hall. I'm very happy to be here with Rebecca. You're Queen of Charlotte,
Oh.
Charlotte native, Carolina girly, as she references herself.
Yes.
But yeah,
Go
pleased
Heels.
to meet you all.
What do you love about this area? Like what makes Optimus Hall special?
The diversity, I think, having the opportunity to come in and try different foods, meet different people, and just kind of be one with the city in a sense. Just having the chance to just embrace your environment, because not often that we get the chance to do that. As a young professional, you know, you're really just trying to grind and build your life. So having a chance to kind of decompress and enjoy bao bun or
Yes.
maybe get some tea or some coffee
Yes.
right here in the heart of the city is really cool.
Yeah, so we were talking about this before we started, but both being foodies, right? One of the cool things about Charlotte is that the food scene really changed here. I'm gonna date myself because I'm gonna go, I think 15 years, 20 years, maybe whatever. But Johnson and Wales, which is a fantastic school that moved here, relocated here, started to, you know, turn out all these chefs and hospitality staff and things, and it just really elevated Charlotte's food scene. So what makes Optimus Hall so cool is you have some of the best Charlotte restaurants, and they have little stations or little like micro, you know, storefronts in here, so you can get a great taste of all that Charlotte has to offer. And then it's not just, you know, steakhouses and breweries.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong with that, but it's just good to be able to sample, you know, all the things. So, and I know Charlotte is new home for you, or
Yes.
is a new home for
Yeah.
you. So tell me a little bit about that decision and where you came from and what brought you here.
Absolutely. So for me personally, I had just moved here not too long ago. I moved here from New York. Yeah, New York, as you hear all the time, us Northerners, I promise I'm a good one. I'm very welcoming and have a good aura about myself where I like everyone to feel comfortable. And I think that's kind of was reciprocated when we made the decision to move here to Charlotte. It made a lot of sense being young, not yet having any children, newly married, and it just offered a great fresh start in the sense of being able to, you have the mountains on one side, you have the beach on another side, and then in between that, you got all the farmlands and, you know, fresh markets. It's really
yeah.
there's an array of things to do.
There's a lot of variety here. So I always say that's what makes Charlotte special is you can find what feels like home.
Yeah.
You know, and or at least something that feels a little bit like home.
Absolutely.
And doesn't feel, you know, totally foreign, because going from New York to North Carolina is a little different.
Yeah.
But, you know, hopefully Southern hospitality and there's so many transplants that are here anyway. So
Right.
it, you know, really gives some good diversity to the city, and it's not just like, oh, you're not from around here. So that's one of the things that I love, is that Charlotte tends to be a very welcoming city, a very young city, and a lot of people are here, you know, kind of elevating their life, you know, really kind of in that build and that grind phase, and so you get a lot of that energy that kind of keeps you energized.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, pursuing your goals. So I think that's one of
Exactly.
the cool things too.
So yeah, in short, like you said, that's what brought me here. Just like every other young professional, young couple, I run into young couples all the time who do move from New York. I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it. They do come from New York. They're looking to branch out in their life, their next phase of life and goal. So it's just a relatable topic.
And also because talking about like buying in New York is a lot different than buying here too. Because I mean, just from a budget standpoint, I mean, the taxes, you know, every time someone moves from New York and New Jersey particularly, and I'll tell them what their taxes are, they're like, you know, I remember one time I had this guy and he was like, listen, sweetheart, he was like, those aren't the taxes. And I was like, I promise I'll send you the bill, you know, but I understand,
Absolutely.
you know, that's a big part of affordability. But that's really cool. I mean, y'all moved to a new city, you know, occupational hazard of real estate, you know, like you know what you're looking for. How did y'all decide on the area that you settled on, and what was that process buying your first home like?
Well, honestly, what I would like advise to people who are in the market looking to buy, it's really about buying for your lifestyle rather than just finding the price per se. Obviously, the price is important, but making sure that it fits what you see long-term for yourself and the lifestyle you're hoping to create. So for me and my wife, we actually got married a few years ago, and we decided to take a trip here during some time of our honeymoon, and we were like, let's just give it a whim, and we took a trip took around the entire circumference of Charlotte. We did our due diligence, but we needed some more time to recover and save up, which is super understanding from a buyer standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, you want to make sure it makes the most sense, but you also don't want to wait too long. So we waited about 2 years because we knew this market was really growing, and the destination we landed on happened to still be kind of emerging. So it was really just about seeking the opportunity, but also having like the reachability to get to the city of Charlotte like it
Sure.
is now, because it's just such an attractive, you know, city, like a small town but big city feel.
Yeah.
That's something that's also new to us, so we're all about taking on those new and exciting things.
Yes, I think that's one of the unique things too about Charlotte is it's not terribly homogenous, right?
Mhm.
So there are all these really great ideas. So or great areas. So if you're looking for, you know, horse country, you can go out to Union County. If you're looking for something on the lake, you have two choices. You can have uptown living, you can have urban living, you can have, you know, suburban. You can be, you know, out where you kind of have some room to breathe and some,
Yeah.
you know, where areas are expanding. And I think that's one of the reasons that people come to Charlotte is, again, coming back to so many transplants, is you can find something that feels enough like home that it doesn't, you know, totally feel foreign, but
Correct.
you're able to then be able to explore and go out from there and get to know the city and all those kind of things. Being in real estate, what's one of your craziest real estate stories? Because, you know, we all, like, I always say that when we get together, we like to swap war stories and be like, oh my gosh, there was this one time, because it's just stuff comes up. You know, there are a lot of moving parts. You're dealing with people's money, with people's homes. Obviously, there's a lot of emotion in that. And then there's just real life that pops in there.
Yeah, nothing too crazy, honestly. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
That sounds very sideways.
Fortunate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a better way to put it. I'm definitely fortunate. I mean, a funny story is I had a client. I was showing him a property, and as we were getting throughout the basement, he was like, "Is that a piano?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's a piano." He's like, "Is it staying?" I said, "I'll find out to make sure." He's like, "Well, I'll tell you what. If it doesn't play the way I need it to play, they can take it." So,
So did you get a mini concert?
He went down, he sat down, he flipped it up and started singing Frank Sinatra.
Oh my
I
gosh.
did it my way. He's like, it doesn't sound good enough.
He's like manifesting that he's gonna get the house his way, right?
So I think that, not crazy, but it stuck with me because it was just such a funny moment. And I'm happy that he was able to make it really personable and just like kind of just feel comfortable enough to do that in front of me.
For sure.
Especially after seeing a few houses, you know, within that first week. So kudos to that gentleman. He knows who he is.
Now, did he wind up getting the house?
He was like, this is not the right piano, so I'm not going with it, which is ultimately really crazy that he decided not to do it.
You know what? Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of logic, and sometimes there's a little bit of vibes.
Yeah.
Too. Like, you got to know if like the house is a good fit.
Exactly, and you literally never know. There's always a curveball as to why and what people's reasons are.
What right now, particularly, you know, whether it's somebody moving new to the neighborhood or moving new to the city or first-time home buyer, or just in general, what's your best advice that you're giving sellers or buyers about the market? Because it's you know, it's not as tight as it was, right? I mean, there were times where, you know, you had all the craziness of multiple offers and lines outside the house, you know, for open house, and we're not seeing that. But we're also not seeing, I mean, the Charlotte market stays pretty insulated, but it has shifted a little bit to a little bit more balance. So what's the advice that you're giving right now?
Yeah, I mean, advice for buyers from the standpoint of you looking for your first home. Like I said, if you could take advice from me personally, I think it's great to wait in terms of making the right decision, but not waiting in terms of hoping that a price or rates could dictate that, because you really want to make sure if it's a price that you're set on, you know, you want to marry the price and you date the rate, as they say, because you can always refinance it later on. But you also want to make sure you're comfortable with those monthly payments at the same time, and that you're working with a professional who can give you that upfront advice and who's always honest with you, not only from the beginning of the transaction and of the relationship, but even afterwards. So because it's about building a relationship, and I think it's important to check in even afterwards, after we get you in the door and in your home. And then for the sellers, I think it's important to just count on us to be honest with you up front, making sure that you're pricing your home, you know, at the right and attractable price, so that you get the most buyers and most volume into your home, so that it's not just sitting, because once it sits, you lose all of your leverage, and that flexibility kind of starts to go out the door. So
For sure. You don't want to chase the market.
no,
Yes.
definitely don't chase the market.
That will get you into some trouble for sure, for sure. So I want to thank you for sharing a little bit of your experience and through fresh eyes. You know, like a longtime Charlottean like me, it's always good to have a fresh view. But I appreciate you sharing that and sharing your wisdom with us.
I appreciate you having me.